toDIYfor, and I am finally starting to get to some of the decor in my new apartment. Now I am still painting a couple of rooms. It's a slow process, but it's going, and I've done a little bit of decorating in my bedroom, which is where these guys are right now. So today I'm going to show you two different versions on how you can make some hanging planters. Now this one is a little bit more expensive, a little more technical, and a little more aesthetically pleasing than the other one, but I'm also going to show you an alternate version which is very cheap, very easy, and the perfect way to cover up that ugly plastic container that all plants come in, and it's a quick way to do it as well. Plus, at the end of this video, I'm going to let you know how you can propagate a spider plant, which is these little guys right here, and have more plants because I'm obsessed with plants and I can't stop buying them. So stick around, that will be at the end of the video. So first I'm going to show you how I covered up this big green bucket. It's just a lot easier. Instead of repotting these things into a nicer looking plant pot, I'm going to cover it up and get rid of this ugly hook that they all come with. So this is an ideal DIY for a plant like this because it actually covers a lot of that bucket. But we're going to use a nice fabric here. I'm using a faux leather type material, and that is going to be kind of the base that covers up the bottom of the planter. So I just cut out a large square that's definitely going to be big enough for the base and go up the sides, and then I took my X-Acto knife and cut in small little slits about an inch away from each corner of this square. So this slit just needs to be big enough for the cord that you're using to go through. In my case, I'm using some macrame cord, and I'm going to cut two strands that are going to be about double the height that you want your pot to hang. So I'm feeding just one of these strands through each corner and then diagonally into the other corner. So it's kind of going to create a little X here. Now this is on the inside of this piece of fabric, and this really is just your support system. Instead of just knotting it to the fabric, I thought this would be a lot better. It was a pretty heavy plant, so this is going to support it. So you place your plant on the inside of that, and then you see these cords. You could just pull them up, but I'm actually going to secure them into the plastic by drilling a small hole. This is definitely going to keep that bucket from not possibly slipping out of this fabric little hammock that we've just made it. So I've drilled a little hole in there big enough for my macrame cord, and I'm doing that on all four corners, and then you just knot each strand together at the top, and then you can hang this piece. So secondly, this one, similar, using macrame cord, some wooden beads, a little metal hoop, and this bucket was such a deal. I was so happy about this. I love finding clearance items at HomeSense. It's actually really lightweight, which is ideal for hanging planters. So plastic is definitely a good idea when you're picking out your planter. Now I'm using my macrame cord, again, cutting 4 strands, at least double the length that I want my hanging pot to hang, because you fold it in half and then that loop there is the half point, and I'm knotting it. Now ideally I shouldn't have done this. I really messed this up, but I'm going to show you how I fix that later on. So with the end of each strand, these don't burn very well to kind of fasten all those frays together, so I taped them all together in order to be able to squeeze through these wooden beads, which were really tight to get 2 strands through. But I split this up into 2 strands each, sliding on those wooden beads, and then the next step, separating those pieces and pairing them again with someone next to them, as you can see I've done here with my other beads. So once these are all strung together, that's where I wanted to end my little macrame design bit. I used some very thin wire here. You could have just knotted it. I didn't really like how bulky that looked, so I did the thin wire there to kind of add some support, and I wrapped it around with this thread that I had. It should be embroidery thread, but that's just the color that I had to match the pot. So that covers up the wire there. And this is when I started going back and wishing I had changed things from the beginning. So this is just a hoop that I had from an old belt from a DIY that I used. I literally keep everything. And I decided to untie that massive knot at the top of my thing. Now I couldn't just take the whole thing apart, so luckily I was able to mastermind a way to get this hoop in there, but ideally I should have used this hoop at the beginning. This is definitely an extra step. You don't need to do this, but I'm just showing you how I managed to get the hoop in there after all. Had I done it properly in the first place, it would have been a lot easier. But I slid that in with an extra piece of macrame cord, wrapped that around those extra strands, wrapped it around the hoop, and then tied it up like you can see there. Again, this is extra, don't need to do it. You could have just left it like I originally had done it. Now with the tail ends, I kept them quite long, and I added a few wooden beads with some knots on the end, cut off all of these taped edges, and I don't know if this is the best way or best use of this. I'm not sure what you should do. If you have any suggestions, leave it in the comments below, but to keep that from fraying, I used a little bit of clear nail polish. So I've potted my plant in here. This is a plant that I almost killed completely, and somehow it came back to life. It's honestly been over a year since it died, and this is all it's got. I know it's not very big, but I'm pretty happy I brought it back. So you put it in your planter and you can hang it all up.
I don't care no more. So I sing I don't care no more. Worry about a thing. I don't care no more. So I sing
Alright, so that's it for this week's DIY. One of the reasons that I picked up the spider plant, which is a new addition to my family, is because it grows these in the spring, winter, I believe it is, that these sprout, and it's the perfect way to make more plants. So sadly, this actually fell off. It snapped off and transitioned from one room to another. I was trying to be careful, but it broke off. But the thing is that you can replant these so simply. I knew this, just didn't know how to do it. So my sister informed me it's simple as putting this into a little glass of water and it will start forming roots. Now you can do it that way, or you could also just plant this in soil from what I read online, and then it will grow right away as well, because there are kind of some little roots that are growing here. So that is a way that you can multiply your plant supply, or maybe even gift them to somebody. So I'm gonna put this guy in some water. I don't have any soil on hand right now. Also just gonna trim this off as well, and then I'll have a new spider plant. So let me know if you enjoyed these DIYs, also which hanging basket is your favorite, and if I should keep them together. I'm kind of thinking about moving this one into a different space in my apartment. Anyways, don't forget to subscribe. I will be back next Wednesday with a new video and DIY for you. And like this video if you enjoyed these DIYs. And if you make any one of them, I want to see what it looks like in your space. So send me some photos on Instagram and on Twitter. You can follow me at toDIYfor. Cheers, and I'll talk to you next week.